Welcome to this lecture number 10 on the NPTEL course on fluid mechanics for undergraduate students in chemical engineering. In the last lecture, we discussed in detail the notions of Eulerian versus Lagrangian description of motion, Eulerian versus Lagrangian description of motion. So, just to recall very briefly, in the Lagrangian description, we imagine that a fluid is comprised, suppose you have a box of fluid. Okay. A fluid is comprised of various points, okay, which are called material points or fluid particles, and these points can be followed as a function of time. The position or location of these various points can be followed as a function of time. Each point in the Lagrangian approach is labeled by fluid particles or material points are labeled by their positions at time t equal to 0, which we called x0 t, okay, where p stands for particle. Okay. So, the motion of the fluid is described by how the position of various particles, fluid particles, change as a function of time. Okay. And they are given as a function of their initial positions x0 p. Okay. So, this is there is no time here, x0 p is by definition, okay, xp, okay, let us call this x0 in the superscript, xp at time t equal to 0. Okay. So, again we will have the superscript here 0 and time. Okay. So, each point here moves in a specific way, and after this is at time t equal to 0, after a time t the trajectory of all these points, in principle an infinite set of points are known, and once they are known you can compute quantities such as velocity of a fluid particle. Instead of writing Vp, we will write velocity of a fluid particle xp of t at a time t, or rather velocity of a fluid particle which is denoted by xp0, okay, that is the particle which was there at xp0 at time t equal to 0, that is the label of a particle, and after time t this particle would have moved to some point here, okay, from here. So, this is the velocity of a fluid particle which was at xp0 at time t equal to 0. The velocity of such a particle at time t is given by the rate of change of its position, okay, by keeping the identity constant, the label constant. So, in the Lagrangian description of motion, the independent variables, the Lagrangian description, independent variables are the initial positions and time. These are the initial positions of various fluid particles that serve as their identity, okay, that serve as a label, and time. Okay. So, not just these are not just restricted to velocities, you can calculate acceleration of a fluid particle at time t, which is nothing but the rate of change of its velocity, okay, as you keep the identity of the particle the same, and so on. Okay. So, once you have the trajectory of the motion as described by this equation, this is the motion, the trajectory of various particles, one can compute kinematic quantities like velocities and accelerations. Okay. One can also extend this to other fields such as temperature field, temperature of a fluid particle at a later time. Okay. This is, imagine this is a Lagrangian description. Imagine you follow a motion of a particle, the particle was here at time t equal to 0 and it is moving at a later time here. So, imagine putting a thermometer, attaching a thermometer to a particle, and then you follow the same particle and then you measure the temperature history of a given fluid particle. So, that is the as a function of time. So, the Lagrangian description tells you the historical information such as temperature of a fluid particle as you follow it, or velocity of a fluid particle as you follow it, and so on. So, this gives you the temperature history of a tagged fluid particle. Okay. In contrast, we also mentioned this, the Lagrangian description is not very practical because measurements in labs are often done based on keeping probes at fixed locations in space. For example, we will keep thermometers or various temperature sensing devices at various points in space rather than follow it along with a fluid particle normally. So, the other description of used in fluid mechanics, the description that is often used in fluid mechanics is the Eulerian description or the spatial description. Okay. The Lagrangian description is also called as the material description, as I mentioned in the last lectures. Okay. Here you imagine having a fixed reference frame in your lab, okay, and suppose you have a pipe, okay, in which fluid is flowing. Okay. You can measure, you can keep probes within the pipe, you can say keep thermometers within the pipe, and you can measure, for example, the temperature as a function of, you can measure the temperature as a function of x, y, z coordinates and time, okay, at various fixed locations in space. Okay. So, you can measure, so this is often condensed in shorthand as t as a function of x vector and t. So, the independent variables in the Eulerian description are the spatial positions, okay, and time. So, the key thing that differentiates Eulerian and Lagrangian description of motion is that the independent variables that are used to characterize the motion, in one case you are following the particle, in the other case in the Lagrangian case you are following a given fluid particle, whereas in the Eulerian case you are sitting at various points in space and measuring quantities as a function of time. So, in the Eulerian description, this is the Eulerian description. Okay. By nature of its of the description, we lose the notion of historical information. That is, if you find the temperature at a given point in space, okay, at a time t, and if you find, okay, at a later time, okay, t plus delta t, suppose you have a flow, okay, and you measure, suppose you have flow, you measure temperature at a point, okay, this is the fixed point, okay, this is the point x, okay, you measure temperature using a thermometer, and at a time x, this point will be occupied by, let us say, a red particle, okay, at time t. At a later time, okay, the same point x, spatial location x, will be occupied, this red particle will move at a time t plus delta t, this red particle move elsewhere, and maybe some other particle will come and occupy, okay, time t plus delta t. This red particle would have moved from the location x to some other point, and the location x itself will be occupied by some other fluid particle. Okay. So, what we are merely measuring in the Lagrangian in the Eulerian description, I am sorry, is that at a given point in space, what are the properties of such as temperature, velocity, or acceleration or pressure as a function of time, without worrying about which particles belong, without worrying about what is the material particle or fluid particle that is occupying that location. Okay. This is usually okay, except in the case of acceleration. Suppose the Eulerian velocity field is given by v as a function of x t. Okay. Once you have this information, we cannot compute the partial derivative of v as a function of x t with respect to t and call it acceleration, okay, because whenever we take partial derivative, we keep, since the independent variables are x vector and t vector, when you partially differentiate with respect to t, we are keeping the x vector same, that is, we are merely taking the at a given point x, what is the spatial what is the variation of velocity at that point as a function of time, whereas acceleration, really speaking, is what is the velocity, rate of change of velocity of a fluid particle, that is acceleration of a fluid particle is inherently a Lagrangian quantity. Okay. So, in principle, what we must do to compute acceleration is that, suppose you are at a point x, Okay, let us use blue color to denote the point. This is the physical location x. At time t, this red particle is here, and at time t plus delta t, this red particle would have in general moved away from x. Okay, this is the point x. Okay, the red particle which was originally here, okay, would have moved elsewhere. Okay, so the acceleration in principle is defined as limit delta t tending to 0, velocity of the particle, okay, which was at x at time t, velocity of the particle which is at x plus delta x at time t plus delta t, minus velocity of that particle which was at x, because this particle was at x at time t, divided by delta t. Okay. Whereas, a normal partial derivative such as this would merely measure v at x plus delta v at x t plus delta t minus v at x t divided by delta t as limit delta t going to 0. Okay. So, this is clearly not acceleration, because this is not acceleration, because we are not following the same particle, whereas here we are recognizing explicitly the fact in this definition that you are following the same particle, and you are realizing the fact that this particle which was here at x would have moved to some other location at a later time. Now, while this is all fine, normally in fluid mechanics we do not have we have only the Eulerian information at our hand. Okay, only the Eulerian information at hand. That is, we have only v as a function of spatial coordinates and time. Now, the question is how to get accelerations from this information. Okay. Well, we saw this notion of substantial derivative that will help us to do this. We said this in the context of, we explained this in the context of temperature, because temperature is a scalar, it is much simpler. So, imagine you have a channel and fluid is flowing at constant velocity, uniform velocity, okay, constant velocity, and you are at a point x equal to 0, okay, and this is the point x equal to 0, and at this point we had a particle that was we had the blue particle, and at a earlier location x equals minus delta x, we had a red particle. Okay. Okay. So, x is minus delta x. Okay. Now, the distance is minus delta x. Now, since for simplicity we will consider only one dimension, that is the x direction. So, we will call this x, we will call it x equal to 0, here x equals minus delta x. Okay. So, the distance that separates is delta x, this particle is behind because the coordinate axis x increases in this direction. So, we have minus delta x here. Now, imagine measuring temperature using a probe such as a thermometer at this point. So, we are doing an Eulerian measurement at x equal to 0. We are putting a thermometer at x equal to 0, and we are measuring temperature as a function of time. This is at time t. At a later time t plus delta t, okay, this point, blue point, would have moved. So, I am going to draw it roughly at the same locations. So, the red point would have moved to blue point, where the blue point was x equal to 0, and the blue point would have moved somewhere else. Okay. The blue point would have moved somewhere else. So, this distance is still, this is the location x equals 0. Okay, let me call this, let me write this in green ink, the spatial location x equal to 0. Now, this becomes x equal to plus delta x. So, let us call the spatial location x equal to 0, x equal to minus delta x. This is x equal to 0 is now, this is time t plus delta t. Okay, the thermometer is kept still at x equal to 0. This is a thermometer Okay, fluid is flowing. So, fluid motion takes the point blue point which was at x equal to 0 to x equal to delta x. Since the velocity is constant v 0, delta x will be v 0 times delta t. Okay. Delta x is v, it is a uniform motion, velocity is constant at each and every point in space and time. So, it is a constant velocity. So, velocity is the displacement delta x is v 0 delta t. Okay. Now, what is the thermometer measuring? Thermometer is measuring at, let us also, before I proceed further, let us also denote the Eulerian labels of this particle. So, this particle is denoted by its position at time t 0, let us call it to be consistent with my previous lecture, let us call it t 0. So, all points are marked by their positions at time t 0. So, this point, the Lagrangian coordinate is x equal to 0. We need not have the vector subscripts because we are just worrying about one direction here. Okay, this is x equals minus delta x. Now, even at a later time, the Lagrangian coordinate of this point is simply still x equal to 0. Okay, or let us, to be specific, let us call it x naught equal to 0. Okay, x naught, and here the Lagrangian portion of this particle is still x naught is minus delta x. Delta x is v 0 delta t, that is the magnitude of the displacement. Okay. Okay. So, the labels of these particles are simply the blue particles, the Lagrangian labels, of blue particles is x 0 equal to 0. So, I am sorry, I do not need the vector symbols, and the Lagrangian label for the red particle is simply x 0 is minus delta x. Okay. But we also realize that at time t equal to t naught, it also coincides, the blue particle coincides with the spatial location x equal to 0, the red particle coincides with the spatial location x equal to minus delta x. Now, what is the substantial derivative of temperature? Okay. We mentioned in the last lecture that substantial derivative is denoted by a special symbol capital D dt, is simply d the rate of change of temperature with time as you keep x naught constant. Okay. So, that is the key difference. So, this is nothing but when you keep x naught constant, t of x 0 is minus v 0 delta t minus delta x, t naught plus delta t minus t of x naught is minus delta x at t 0 divided by delta t, limit delta t going to 0. This is by definition what is substantial derivative. The substantial derivative is the time derivative as you follow, let us say, the red particle. The red particle is currently at time t naught plus delta t at a position x 0, x equal to 0. Okay. But at a earlier time it was at a position here. Okay. So, let me just draw the red particle figuratively here. Okay. This is the earlier location, okay, of the red particle, x equals, let me just write it in green color, the spatial location, x is minus delta x. This red particle has moved from here to here. Okay. As you follow this red particle, how is the temperature changing? That is the definition of substantial derivative. But the thermometer measures a completely different thing. What? The Eulerian time derivative as measured by the thermometer, because it is sitting at the same point in space. So, it is simply measuring, okay, at a given x, let us say equal to 0. What is this? This is limit t delta t going to 0, okay, t of x equal to 0, t naught plus delta t minus t of x equal to 0, t divided by delta t. Okay. So, somehow we should get this information, this is a substantial derivative as we follow the same material particle from this information, okay, from this description, the spatial description. Okay. So, how do we do that? In very simple terms, we simply take this and then add and subtract the following quantity. Okay. First we realize that x equal to 0, okay, t 0 plus delta t is nothing but, okay. So, we could also do it something similar. Instead of doing it at x equal to 0, you can call it x naught x, okay, that is okay. So, this is perfectly fine. So, I am going to relabel the Eulerian independent coordinates with Lagrangian independent coordinates t, okay. Let us just go to the figure, okay. So, in this figure at x equal to 0, okay, at time t plus delta t, it is the blue particle that is present. Let me just go here. Okay, at x equal to 0 at time t plus delta t, it is the red particle that is present. So, I am going to change the label to the Lagrangian label, limit x naught equal to minus delta x, t naught plus delta t. At x equal to 0 at time t, okay, it was the particle that was present at time t or t naught, that is at x equal to 0 is the blue particle with identity x naught equal to 0. So, I am going to simply write this as x naught equal to 0 t and then close the bracket divided by delta t. Okay. So, this is the partial derivative. So, the normal partial derivative at x equal to 0 is given by limit delta t going to 0. Now, I am going to add and subtract a term which will help us identify the relation delta t minus t x naught is minus delta x t 0 plus t x naught is minus delta x t 0 minus, okay, I am adding and subtracting this same quantity minus t x naught is 0 t, okay, t 0 divided by delta t. Okay. Now, we can identify the following, that is at this, if you look at this combination here, this is nothing but, okay, here you are identifying the same material particle, the x naught is minus delta x, x naught minus delta x, but the time is different. So, this is nothing but this term divided by delta t as time delta t going to 0. So, the left side remains the normal partial derivative. So, one of the terms in the right side is the substantial derivative that we want to calculate. Okay. This is nothing but partial t as x naught is kept constant, which is minus delta x here, and that is essentially the substantial derivative, plus we have an additional term, let me write it, which we will simplify now. Okay. T of x naught is minus delta x t 0 minus t of x naught 0 t 0 divided by delta t. So, sorry, this is partial by partial t here, okay, at x equal to 0 is the substantial derivative, okay, plus, okay, instead of writing it as delta t v 0 delta t is delta x. Okay. So, instead of writing it as delta t, I am going to write this as, so delta t I will write as a delta x by v 0. So, I will get v 0 limit, instead of delta t going to 0, I will get delta x going to 0 t of, now x naught equal to minus delta x. Okay. So, let us go to the figure, x naught is minus delta x is x equal to 0, okay, and x naught is minus delta x at time t 0, okay, x naught is minus delta x at time t 0 corresponds to the Eulerian location x equal to minus delta x. Okay. So, I am going to write this as x equal to minus delta x, okay, at time t 0 minus x naught equal to 0 at time t 0 is t, sorry, let me remove the bracket here. Okay, this is t at x equal to 0 time t 0. Okay. So, we are converting this Eulerian labels to Lagrangian labels here to Eulerian labels just by looking where this point x naught was. This is x naught, the x naught is equal to minus delta x was exactly at time t equal to 0 at the spatial location x equal to minus delta x, x naught equal to 0, the point, the Eulerian label, the Lagrangian label corresponds to the location at time t equals 0, x equal to 0 divided by delta x. Okay. This is nothing but, so let us forget this, this term is nothing but minus partial t by partial x. Okay. So, partial temperature by partial time x equal to 0 is the substantial derivative as you follow, okay, as you follow a material particle which was at x equal to 0 at time t naught minus v 0 partial t partial x, or in other words the substantial derivative of a particle that was at time t equal to 0 at x equal to 0, substantial derivative of temperature as you follow a particle which was at time t equal to t 0 x equal to 0. As this particle is moving, its rate of change of temperature is because of the local rate of change of temperature at a fixed location in space at x equal to 0 plus a convected rate of change of temperature, which happens because of the fact that this particle is moving, probably moving, presumably moving from a region of lower to higher temperature. So, its temperature will change not just because of the inherent rate of change at a given point, also because of gradient in spatial gradients in temperature as you follow the same point. Okay. So, that is the substantial derivative. This is a very important result. Okay. So, we can generalize this for any arbitrary velocity. Instead of having v 0, okay, we can generally write this as partial t at constant x plus v x, this is the direction of velocity in the x direction plus the gradient of temperature in the x direction. Okay. So, this is called the local, this is the substantial time derivative of temperature. This is the local rate of change of temperature. This is the convected rate of change of temperature. Okay. So, we can also generalize this to 3 dimensions when velocity, you have a velocity vector in all the 3 directions. So, fluid is flowing in arbitrary, okay, 3D, this is called 3D motion, where v x, v y, v z all are not equal to 0, in which case you can generalize this. Okay. So, the substantial derivative in 3 dimension is given by substantial derivative of a scalar field like temperature is given by the local partial derivative plus v x just by generalization partial t partial x plus v y partial t partial y plus v z partial t partial z. Okay. We can also use the symbol from vector calculus. This is nothing but partial, the rate of change of temperature at a fixed location plus v dot the gradient of temperature. Grad T is of course I partial t partial x plus j partial t partial y plus k partial t partial z. Okay. This is the gradient of temperature. Familiar from gradient of any scalar field is familiar from vector calculus like this. So, this is the substantial derivative of temperature. Again, what this means in the Eulerian context is that suppose you have a frame of reference, Eulerian frame of reference in the lab, and let us say fluid is flowing in some arbitrary way, okay, and you are sitting at a point in the fluid, okay, and you are putting a thermometer and you are measuring, okay, temperature, and you get this information as a function of time, temperature as a function of x, y, z. You can keep many thermometers and get this information. Suppose you are interested in a point, you are fixing x and you are asking, suppose I have a particle that was here at time t 0, as I follow this particle by 2 time t 0 plus delta t, what is the rate of change of temperature as I follow the particle? That is the meaning of substantial derivative, this is gradient. Okay. So, the answer is you have a local rate of change plus a plus a convected rate of change as you follow the particle. The particle may go from regions of one temperature to some higher temperature or low temperature, that will cause a gradient of temperature, and when you dot that with velocity vector, that will give you the convected rate of change, while this is the local rate of change. Okay. So, this is the notion of substantial derivative, wherein you can actually get information from Eulerian description. This is an Eulerian description. Okay. You can get from this Eulerian description of temperature as a function of 3 coordinate directions and time, how temperature will change as you follow a particle which is at a given spatial location at a given time. Okay. This is the meaning of substantial derivative. Now, we can also generalize this to more complicated objects such as velocity. Temperature was a scalar. Okay. So, that was much simpler. So, dt was partial t at constant x plus v dot del t. Okay. So, what is the substance? If I have the velocity Eulerian velocity field, this is the Eulerian velocity field. Okay. Suppose I have the Eulerian velocity field, how do I compute the substantial derivative of the velocity? What is the meaning, physical meaning of this? If I have a particle at x at time t0, this particle would in general move to x plus delta x at time t0 plus delta t. So, what is the rate of change of velocity as I follow the particle, and that physically is the acceleration. Okay. In the Eulerian description, the acceleration of a fluid particle is obtained by the substantial, this is the acceleration of a fluid particle is equal to the substantial derivative of the Eulerian velocity field. Okay. Okay. Now, the idea is very similar. A is dv dt. Just by looking at the previous formula that was written here, we can write partial v, the local rate of change of velocity at a given spatial location, plus v dot grad, instead of temperature here which was a scalar, okay, here we wrote v dot grad t, we will wrote v dot grad v. Okay. So, this is the Eulerian acceleration field obtained from the Eulerian velocity field merely by taking the substantial derivative of the velocity. Now, acceleration is a vector, so we will have to take individual components. So, for example, the x component is given by dvx, the substantial derivative of the x component of the fluid velocity. So, this is partial v x by partial t plus v dot grad. So, remember that v dot grad is a scalar operator, while velocity is a vector and grad is a vector, there is a dot product. So, this makes it a scalar operator v dot grad. So, v dot grad will remain as such, and since we are taking the x component of this vector a x here, so you will have v x here. Okay. There is no need for taking any component here, because v dot grad is already a scalar operator, because both v and del are vector operators, and if you take a dot product you will get a scalar operator. Okay. So, a x is partial v x by partial t, dv x by dt is a x plus v x partial v x by partial x plus v y partial v x by partial y plus v z partial v x by partial v z. Okay. So, this is how accelerations can be computed, okay, whenever you have Eulerian velocity field information. Okay. Now, the next topic that we are going to discuss is the following. Suppose how to describe the notion of flow further. Okay. So, we are going to, in this course, in fluid mechanics, in most fluid mechanics courses or research, one normally uses the Eulerian frame of reference. That is the most convenient from an experimental point of view, and that is the most useful from a practical viewpoint also. So, Eulerian frame of reference will be what is used in this course as well as most applications in fluid mechanics that you will encounter. But the connection between Eulerian and Lagrangian is always important, because that is what helps us to arrive at the notion of a substantial derivative. Because even if you want to work within the Eulerian description, it is always useful to have the notion of substantial derivative, because only then we can compute quantities such as acceleration. Okay. So, in fluid mechanics we will stick to Eulerian frame of reference, and within the Eulerian frame of reference the velocity is a vector, is denoted as a function of the 3 spatial coordinates and time. In fluid mechanics we will use the Eulerian frame of reference, and the Eulerian velocity field is given by v, the velocity vector. Remember that velocity is a vector, okay, in general. Okay. In fluid mechanics all the 3 components of velocity will be present, so we need to preserve this v as a vector, and it is a function of the 3 spatial locations that you choose to work with, and it is also a function of time. Okay. So, imagine you have a situation where you have a channel like this, okay, okay, and let us say that at a given point in space the velocity is independent of time. So, at various locations in this fluid is flowing like this, okay. This is the channel wall, okay, and fluid is flowing like this. At various locations, let us assume that for a experimental realization that velocities are independent of time. So, at a given location, if at given location velocity, the partial derivative velocity at any given location is 0, then the Eulerian, this is on within the Eulerian description, this is the Eulerian description of velocity field, okay. This is the Eulerian description, okay, where velocity is given as a function of spatial positions and time. Okay. If at a given location the partial derivative of velocity with respect to time is 0, that means that velocity is independent of time at any location x. Okay. Such flows are denoted as steady flows. So, in a steady flow in the Eulerian sense, okay, if you look at various points in space and if you measure the velocity, at each point the velocity will be independent of time. Okay. So, we take the partial derivative of the velocity, it will be 0 at each point. If you fix a point and then measure the velocity and take its time derivative, it will not change. Okay. But this does not mean steady in the Eulerian sense, does not mean that the velocity of a given fluid particle is not changing. For example, if you follow this green particle from here to here, it is going from a region of higher cross section area to lower cross section area. Okay. If mass, if the fluid is incompressible, then the amount of volume that is flowing in here must be the same as the amount of that is flowing in here. As the cross section area is more here compared to here, this fluid particle will get accelerated as it goes from here to here. Okay. So, even though at a given fixed location the velocity does not change with time, okay, as you follow a fluid particle it can accelerate in general. So, this is what we mean by the convected contribution to the substantial derivative. Even if there are local, even if the flow is locally steady, that is steady in the Eulerian sense, a given fluid particle can acquire acceleration or deceleration by virtue of moving from regions of higher velocity to lower velocity to higher velocity, or higher velocity to lower velocity. Okay. So, but in fluid mechanics by steady flow we mean that the Eulerian velocity field is independent of time. Okay. Otherwise it is called unsteady. If not, flows are called unsteady. That is, if velocity is indeed a function of time at various points in space, then the flow is unsteady. Okay. People also use the classification 1D in kinematics, 2D and 3D flows, okay, and this is in the following sense. If you have only one velocity field, that is the fluid is flowing in only one direction, okay, this, so imagine you have a channel, okay, and the fluid is flowing in only one direction, okay, this is x and this is y, and the flow is in the x direction. So, let us say only Vx velocity is non-zero, and this Vx can in general be a function of the normal direction y, but the flow is only in one direction. So, we can call this 1D flow because there is only one velocity component that is not 0. Okay. And if the flow is there in two directions, for example, if you have a flow, okay, a flow like in a square like cavity, okay, and it is moving, this is x y, the top plate is moving with some velocity v naught, the bottom side plates are stationary, okay, then the fluid will go like this. So, both Vx and Vy are not 0, okay, and we can call it 2D flow, and if all three velocities are there, they are sometimes we can call it as 3D flow, but there is not unanimity among various textbooks in the nomenclature of such things, because in certain conventions, even if Vx is a function of y, as in this case, even though this is only non-zero velocity, they will call it a 2D flow because you need two directions, x velocity and the y direction, to describe the flow. Okay. But this is not commonly used, but you may find some textbooks use this or some conventions use this, but it is useful to just think of a single velocity field being a function of if you have one velocity that is non-zero, we can call it 1D flow and so on, although it is clear from the context what we mean. Okay. So, the next thing is how to visualize fluid motion, how to visualize flow. In kinematics, we are worried about, or we are interested in how to describe flow, how to measure various quantities. Okay. So, one of the fundamental descriptions of motion is what is called the path line. Okay. Imagine you have a liquid, okay, and you can mark a point in a liquid, okay, with a colored dye, and let us assume that the dye does not diffuse, then at some time t equals 0, okay, and then this particle will in general move to some other location at a later time t. Okay. This is called the particle path or the path line. This is called the path line. So, how do we do this experimentally? Well, we imagine putting a dye at a point in space, and then just look at the motion of the point as a function of time, that is the path line. Okay. So, this is what we formally wrote as x p of t, as x p as a function of x p naught and t. Okay. This is essentially what the Lagrangian description, okay, can be obtained from experiments by putting a dot of dye, or you can introduce a puff of smoke in a gas, okay, and you can use the smoke to visualize the flow, and the puff of smoke will serve as the identity of the particle which was at a location at time t equal to 0, and assuming that the smoke does not diffuse too much within the time scales of interest, okay, then you can identify, you can visualize this motion of a particle, a fluid particle, from time t equal to 0 to time t. This is called the path line. Okay. This is inherently a Lagrangian notion. This has Lagrangian information. Okay. The path line has Lagrangian information, because you are following a point identified by its initial location through by means of a colored dye or a puff of smoke, and then you are viewing its evolution as a function of time, spatial evolution as a function of time. Okay. Now, another useful notion is called the streak line. A streak line is what you will get if you continuously inject a colored dye at a point, and you try to the motion of the dye. I will give an example after I am finished with the definitions. Okay. So, what the streak line does is you are fixing a point in space and you are continuously introducing dye at that point. Okay. And the streak line is the instantaneous locus of all the fluid particles that have been ejected at the same point at some earlier time. Okay. So, you are continuously ejecting fluid particles from time t equal to 0 at the same location, and you are trying to see what are the various locations of particles that are being introduced continuously from time t equal to 0 at a later time. Okay. So, again a simple example is, suppose you have a smoke chimney from which smoke is coming. Okay. You are continuously injecting smoke, okay, and let us say air is moving. So, the path that is taken by the smoke is an example of a streak line, because you are continuously injecting a black or brownish colored smoke from a chimney, and you are trying to locate and you are trying to visualize the motion of this colored particles in air. Okay. Another very useful notion, this is again this has Eulerian information, because you are basically worrying about stuff being introduced at a point, but various particles will come and keep occupying, okay, at that point. So, this has in some sense Eulerian information. Okay. Finally, we have streamline. Okay. Streamline is a mathematical idea. It's okay. We will have to see how it is visualized experimentally, but it is a concept. Okay. The concept is that, suppose you imagine in the Eulerian description, you have the velocity vector as a function of 3 spatial coordinates and time. Okay. Let us look at a given time. At a given time t, at various spatial locations, you can plot how the velocity vector is going to look like, and you can plot the magnitude by showing a larger arrow and a direction by the direction of the arrow. And if the particle has at various points the velocity field has different values, you can show it by both the direction as well as the magnitude. Okay. Streamline is a line that is instantaneously tangential to the local fluid velocity vectors. Okay. So, let me try to draw this as tangential as possible, as okay. So, streamline is a line that is locally tangential to the velocity vector at each and every point in the fluid at a given instant of time. Each point in the fluid at an instant of time, at a given time. Okay. So, streamline is basically an idea, but it comes to, we have to understand how it is, we have to prescribe how this is measured experimentally, or how it is visualized experimentally. Okay. So, we will illustrate this through an example. Okay. So, imagine, so I am going to illustrate the notion of path line, streamline and streak lines through an example. Imagine you have north 4 directions, east, south and west. Okay. Let us say wind is blowing from west to east. Let us say air is blowing or being blown from west to east. Okay. So, it is completely parallel to the east direction. Okay. So, if you look at the streamlines, they look completely parallel, and assume that the flow is steady. Okay. That is, at each and every point the velocity vector is not changing with respect to time. So, flow is steady. So, the streamlines will look like this. Let us look at path lines. Path lines are, you take any point, okay, and you inject dye at that point at time t equal to 0 and locate and watch its motion as at a later time. So, this point would have moved elsewhere at a later time, but it will also be a line that is parallel to the streamline. Okay. Now, so it will be identical to the streamline, because you can inject a particle here, it will move exactly parallel on that streamline itself. So, in a steady flow, in the Eulerian sense, okay, the path line and streamlines are the same, and a streak line will also be the same, because if you inject, if you continuously inject smoke or okay, from at this point, okay, then of course this will okay, if you continuously keep injecting smoke at this point, this will keep moving. Okay. So, a simple realization is that you have a chimney. Okay, let me rewrite this again. So, you have these streamlines because they are parallel, air is blowing from west to east. Okay. Imagine you have a chimney at a location, okay, x naught y naught at point P. Okay. So, the path line or the is the trajectory of a point that was released at time t equal to 0 at this location. So, that will also be parallel in a steady flow, this will just keep going. A streak line will also be just identical to the path line because the flow is steady, it will continue to move in the same direction, and all these will be identical to streamlines. Okay. You can introduce instead of imagining here, you can draw another streamline here also, because the streamlines are completely parallel in this simple example, because the velocity vectors are completely parallel to each other. So, in a steady flow, okay, the path lines, streak lines and streamlines will merge. Will be identical. Okay. What happens if the flow becomes unsteady? We will illustrate with the same example. Imagine that, okay, at this is north, east, south and west. Okay. So, imagine that at some time initially the flow is from east to west, okay, up to time t naught. At some time t naught, the flow changes from northwest to southeast. Okay. So, at some later time, the flow instead of being like this, it starts being like this. Okay. And you are continuously injecting smoke from a chimney, that is what you would imagine. Okay. And we are looking at a later time t greater than t naught, what is the status of the path line, streamline and streak line. Okay. Well, streamlines at a later time t greater than t naught, streamlines are instantaneous descriptions of lines that are parallel to fluid velocity vector. If the velocity vectors are all parallel to the northwest to southeast direction, you will simply see that the streamlines will be at an angle, okay, to the okay, they will be at an angle like this. Okay. So, these are the streamlines. So, streamlines are in red. What about a path line? Okay. The path line, I am going to show it in green. So, you take a point P in which you have introduced, okay, you have introduced a point at time t equal to 0. So, this point will be moving from the north west to east direction, okay, and then at time t 0 you are changing the air is changing the direction from west to east to northwest to southeast. So, this trajectory at this is t less than t 0, this is t greater than t 0, okay, it will come here. Okay. So, the green lines are path lines, the red lines are streamlines. Now, what about streak lines, which I am going to plot in blue? You are continuously injecting material or dye or smoke from at this point. Okay. The dye that was introduced at time t equal to 0, it would have a trajectory that is identical to path line. So, I am going to draw the notion of streak lines here, because it can be confusing there. So, I am going to, so you are introducing continuously, and for reference I am going to plot the path line. Okay. The path lines are clear. At time t equal to 0, injecting something, it will travel up to t 0 here, and then from t 0 to t it will go in the northwest to southeast direction. What about streak lines? Okay. Streak lines will be slightly different. I will plot in blue. That point which was introduced at t equal to 0, it will go all the way here and it will reach here. Okay. Okay, let me use blue color. Okay. But the one that is introduced at a time delta t greater than t equal to 0, it will not have reached up to here, it would have reached up to here, and it would have changed its direction because of the change in direction of the wind, it would have reached here. And likewise, okay, things that are introduced before T0, they would go up to here, okay, and they would, okay, and the stuff that is introduced just before T0 will be here and it will reach here. Okay. The stuff that was introduced after T0 would directly follow this line. So, this is the streak line, while this is the path line. So, the path line and streak lines and streamlines do not agree for unsteady flows. So, we will stop here and we will continue from here in the next lecture, and we will see you in the next lecture.